All right, family. Black Power is the truth hour with General Sarasun said he kick back. Get your mind ready for some information that's guaranteed to be heavy. We got a fire one today. We're going to be talking about the Kandake queens of Kush, 500-year dynasty of African queens coming out of the kingdom of Kush. You see, this is not talked about. I mean, there's so much history, coming up out of Africa that just not being talked about, which is really amazing information. You can't find it nowhere else on the planet, I tell you that. Can't find it nowhere else on the planet. And so we most definitely want to highlight it when it's dealing with our people. Before we get started, I want to make sure you get over there to my Patreon. We got some fire jumping off today. I don't know why the flyer is not there. I'm gonna get it there right now. I'm gonna get it right in here. We're gonna be dealing with the inner earth. The ancient Egyptians, did they travel to the inner earth? They looked at the inner earth as being a part of heaven. You see, and so so did they travel? Well, we know most definitely that when they buried their dead, they went deep. They went deep in the earth. You see, they went deep in the earth. So we want to know what's going on with that. We got a powerful one. Did the ancient Egyptians travel the inner earth? That's going down tonight. So the link is right there in the chat. Make sure you click it. Get over to kingseti.com, online marketplace, official General SETI products, DVDs, T-shirts, hoodies, African and Kemetic jewelry. You can become a member right here. General SETI, Sarasun SETI YouTube page. Please do home. You can go to my home page, click membership, see what file we got up there, and please like the video. Like it because you love it. Share it with your family and friends. Comment. Just don't say nothing stupid because you will get banned. Here we go. So we talking about the Kandaki queens who ruled up out of Meroë. That was the capital. That was I believe the most southern capital of Kush. You had Kerma, you had Napata, but I believe Meroë was the most southern capital of the kingdom of Kush, Nubia, Taseti. And there came a period where there was a 500 year, where it was close to 500 years dynastic rule of African queens, queen mothers or Kandakis, and they most definitely, when, it came a point where they were leading the march, you see, in Africa, to keep these Europeans up out of there. Okay, to keep these Europeans up out of there. And for a long time, they did. They were very successful in doing that. But anyway, let's tab off into the story of these magnificent queens, queen mothers, Kandakis. That's what it means, queen mother. Okay, so let me get in here and tap right on in. Just tap right on in. Now, what's crazy is the majority of them had pyramids. Majority of them, not all of them, but the majority of them had pyramids. So it is pronounced Kandaki. And in the Bible, they were referred to as the Candace queens. You see, the Candace queens, and who were powerful ruling queens of ancient Kush, the kingdom of Kush, Nubia, especially during the Meroic period, okay, Meroitic period, who governed in their own right, commanded armies, built monuments, and negotiated or fought with foreign empires like Rome. This wasn't some symbolic queenship. These women were heads of state. So they would run in the state. Period. This wasn't no symbolic title or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Calling the shots. And so for this period of 500 years, now some of them had their son. He was the king, but the mother was dead. Now in a lot of African societies, it's still that way. You will see the queen mother sitting over there. You understand what I'm saying? She be sitting somewhere out there and she chilling, and she ain't got to say much. She ain't got to say nothing. You know what I'm saying? But she was more hidden, the hidden hand behind the scenes, and if she said something, it was taken into serious consideration. Even when you watch Shaka Zulu, you know what I'm saying? His mama was back there. She had a heavy hand, on what Shaka did. You know what I'm saying? Even though Shaka was, he was bullheaded, but when it came to his mama, that about the only person he would listen to. But what does Kandaki mean? Of course, Kandaki, often written Candace in Greek, Latin sources, was a royal title, not a single person, similar to Pharaoh or Caesar. So it was a title. You see, it roughly means queen mother, and Kandakis often rule alone or alongside a male co-ruler, but held supreme authority. So she very well may have had a male co-ruler, but at that point in time, in the history of our people, she was the supreme authority. Okay, and so the civilization, they ruled the kingdom of Kush, capital Meroë. Period of the strongest Kandaki rule was 300 BC to 300 CE. So that was over 600 years. Unlike Egypt or Rome, Kush openly accepted women as sovereign monarchs. That's very key. Unlike Egypt or Rome, Kush openly accept women as sovereign monarchs. Now, Egypt had some queens too. So, maybe not to the extent that Kush had, but they, women could ascend the throne, and they had a heavy hand too. They had a heavy hand too. So that's, we had to be, where they try to put this in, these interpretations in there to make it seem like Egypt and Nubia is different. Yeah, some is stronger on this end than that end, but it was a lot of powerful queens that did a lot of powerful things in Egypt. Did a lot of powerful things, and so the evidence is still there. So we ain't got to pretend, because a lot of the monuments that are tribute to a lot of the queens is still there. And so we don't have to second guess that. But most famous Kandaki queens, do you have Amani Renis. I got to get my pronunciation together. I see Amani Renis. Okay, this is 40 to 10 BC. Okay, and I believe that's her at Naga. They call her the one-eyed warrior queen who defeated Roman legions, led Kushite forces against Emperor Augustus, forced Rome to sign a peace treaty on Kush's terms. Rome withdrew south of the First Cataract. She appears in Roman records as a terrifying and brilliant military leader. Okay, and they say she had one eye, but I guess she dedicated it, and she went out there and did, and so she put the Romans shit. They had to turn around and go the other way. Emperor Augustus. You see, they don't like that's one thing, because they don't like that. They don't like that. They don't like the fact that a woman could punk, one of their emperors and shit. Because that's what happened. He got punked. It came in, and they try to save Alexander from the same, because they did the same thing to Alexander, but they don't like to mention it. They try to keep it hid. Matter of fact, let me get back here. Yeah, they try to act like it didn't happen, even though it's clear a lot of chroniclers do mention that. Let me get in here and get the sister in here a little better than that. Yeah. And so I believe this depiction right here, I believe this comes from the temple of Naga. You see Naga in Sudan, that's a temple to a Petamak. A Petamak was the lion, the Sudanese, the Nubian lion god, a Petamak. And I believe that depiction, she on one side with the sword, and either that's her son or her husband on the other side, and he had, what did he have? He had something like a mace. I think he had a mace in his hand, and so they cracking heads together. They kicking ass. You know, you can see it right there. She got some, she got some hands. She got they heads. She got their heads in her hands, so she cracking heads. So, that's a very beautiful temple there at Naga. I believe you got one to a Petamak, then you got one to Amun Ra. I believe you got one temple up there to a Amun Ra. So, because the Nubians was heavy on Amun. They was heavy on Amun. They love Amun. So, but let me get down here and get the. I was just here we go. So she, and I'm gonna get the pronunciation. I know it's Amani Renus. Okay, and then you got some more queens. You got this one queen. I'm gonna try to pronounce her name, Amani Shakito. This is 10 BC, the one of the Common Era, and she was known for immense wealth and luxury. Her pyramid yielded some of the finest gold jewelry ever found in Africa. Wow, that's crazy. Evidence of independent rule, not symbolic queenship. So, that's powerful. That's another thing that they don't want to talk about, that a lot of them pyramids, because it's over 250 pyramids in Nubia. And a lot of them pyramids is queens in them pyramids. Some of the largest pyramids is queen pyramids. You see, you had the great 25th dynasty, but some of them other tombs is queens. So out of them 250, a lot of them is queens in them pyramid. That's why they don't want to talk about that. That's why they don't want to talk about that, because no matter what they say, the closest civilization to Egypt is Nubia. I mean, damn, it's just no other way of getting around it. You don't see no other civilization nowhere on the planet that had the same God, same architecture, same clothing, same language, same hairstyle, same shoes, everything. Yeah, they got their own styles. Yeah, they had their own style. But for the most part, they was so close that that this is a confederation of people that, if it had to every time Egypt went to war, Nubia went to war with Egypt. Every time they had to go out there and get busy, Nubia was always in the mix. It was not one time that Nubia did not fight with Egypt when they fought, and vice versa. You see? Yes, they have skirmishes and shit, and this, that, and the third, but, people would say, well, the Egyptians jumped on the Nubians, and so what, do that make them of a different race? Alexander kicked ass all through Europe. What the fuck? You see what I'm saying? Alexander kicked the Greeks' ass. He was from Macedonia. He kicked the Greeks' ass. Do that mean they not Caucasians? Because, that it just happens that, at that, but that was particular Nubians. That wasn't all Nubians. Some were already in allegiance with Egypt. It was some that wasn't in allegiance. So shit, sometimes it happened that way. But hey, Nubia came down and did the same thing. It was a point where Nubia had taken over. You know, it was a point that Nubia had taken over. It was points where Nubia had become strong enough where Egypt just wanted to sign a treaty. They didn't want to go to damn war no more because too many of their infantry was Nubians anyway. So it was at that point, it was time for them to go ahead and sign some treaties and get past it, you know? But so this one Kandaki, Amani Shakito, had one of the richest burials of all time. Say in all of Africa. Didn't say in all of Africa. And then you had this one queen. I believe this the queen right here at Naga. This is a Amani Torre. Amani Torre at Naga, Sudan, and you got the Petamak, the lion god, on the side of the temple. You see one of the greatest builders in Kush. Restored temples, pyramids, and cities. Ruled during Kush's last golden age. Frequently shown larger than male co-ruler reliefs. So yeah, so she got the bigger relief that let people know she was in charge. That's just what it is. You know, she's in charge, you know. And so I had to get off, and so she's responsible for that temple at Naga and that temple to Amen. That's when you go to Naga, Sudan, that's her temple. She built that temple there. And that temple of Amen that's right in front of it. And it's some other, I think it's some sphinx is up there too. I believe it's some sphinx that lead up to them temples. And so I'm gonna have to tap in, you know. And it says and cities, restored temples, pyramids, and cities. And so I'm gonna have to tap in just a little deeper. And so you got now this is what's her name? Shana Doc. This I had to learn these pronunciations. Real talk. But she was the first Kandaki, and so she ruled around 170 BC. Earliest known Kandaki, first queen portrayed wearing full royal regalia, set the model for later female sovereignty. So I had to tap into her and see, and because you know I had to, you know, we had to continue to study and tap in. And I'm most definitely gonna tap in and get get this degree of the Kandakis under my belt for real. But you know, it obviously, you know, they have a very strong history, you know, in kicking off. Now, I did ask, and I'm gonna get into it. I asked about Alexander because I remember Dr. Clark was talking about that. You know, they sent Alexander a warning, like, you know, he was trying to come down into Nubia, and the Kandaki sent about 100,000 soldiers up there to meet him, like, you know, and told him and sent a note with them 100,000 soldiers that, yeah, and when you get down here to Meroë, I got 1 million more waiting on you. You see what I'm saying? And so he turned around and he retreated because you got to think, you got to go across that desert in the Sudan, and if you ain't got no water, you don't know where the water wells is. It's a lot of armies that went in that desert that did not come out of that desert. So you can't play with Sudan. Egypt may be something, you know, where you had to stay on that water, even Egypt. You know what I'm saying? But when you get into Sudan, Sudan is larger than Egypt. And so, and I don't think that, that Nile, it curves up in there, and but it's large stretches of land in Sudan that's far away from that river. And so, you know, you get away from that river, you got to stay right on the river. You know what I'm saying? Because if you leave that river and you go anywhere and you don't know how to get back, you is dead. You're not going to make it up out of there. But it talks about Acts 8:27 mentions the Candace, queen of the Ethiopians. So these sisters made it up even into the Bible. Let me put this one in here. This is one of the pyramids of the queen, you see. And so that's, and this is very, you know, and many of them tombs, even in the Valley of the Queens. And so, I mean, it's some elaborate things in Egypt and in Nubia for the African queens. That's just what it is. So, you know, I'm saying that because I don't want them to pretend like Egypt is something different, like they didn't honor their queens. That's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of things up in Egypt too. So, but you know, you ain't gonna find no other culture that's dropping it down like this. You're not gonna find no other culture where you got megalithic structures, temples, tombs, and all of that to women. You can go to Greece, you can go to Rome, you can go anywhere which way you want. You might find one here or one over there, but you're not gonna find the number of temples, tombs, pyramids, and you know what I'm saying, that you find in the Nile Valley. We talking about evidence. We're not talking about in spoken word or none of that. We're talking about in evidence. You see, still here for somebody to go see for themselves. And so, yeah, we're gonna tap back into this. This is a period of Africa's history, and it's a very key period, as you can see. You know what I'm saying? That's just as key as once you come out of the 25th dynasty, that's the next major segment of the Nile Valley culture is the Kandaki queens. Right after the 25th, in the last stages of Egypt, then that's the next stage of the Nile Valley culture where they trying to fight to keep these damn foreigners, you understand, from taking the whole of the Nile Valley. I appreciate y'all, family. We got some more popping off. Make sure you get over there to Patreon. We're going to be kicking it down tonight. Did the ancient Egyptians travel to inner earth, man, with some of them tombs and them valleys of the kings? They was almost there. So they knew something about the inner earth that we very well may not know about today. And we're going to tap into it this evening. So click that link and get on over there, family. But I'll be right back right here on YouTube. I'll see you in a minute. Arm yourself with knowledge. Bang on that Wicked Beast Daily. Liberation through African education and confrontation. Boom. Black power.